Well, it's been another exciting week, and we're better to hear about all the action from the Shrimps than here on ShrimpsNet, the Shrimps Trust podcast. Thank you for joining us. Helping to reflect on Cole's tap-in at Highbury and battling the addicts on Tuesday night. We have the usual Ren and Stimpy in myself and Joel, but also professional podcast tart, James Wakefield from the board. And for his first time, Jamaican international and Shrimps superstar left-back Greg Leigh. Welcome along, everybody.
What's happening? Thanks, Freez.
You can keep talking, I don't mind. So where do we start? Well, there's only one place to start, isn't there? We took 1,150 fans to Fleetwood last week in the Lancashire derby. It was an eventful game for one thing and one thing only. It was a tough battle, but the place you've got to start, Cole Stockton. Dear Lord. I mean, Joel, goal of the century for us or what?
Yeah, it's not going to get beaten. I can't see it getting beaten in my lifetime. So I was listening. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make the game, but I was listening to it, and I think Ryan Daly's reaction over the commentary that gave a pretty accurate description of it. The screaming, because it was just, the audacity to even try it in the first place is just unbelievable. And to be honest, I thought we were a bit unfortunate to be level. I thought we played quite well and we were probably deserving of the win anyway. But then to be able to do it in that fashion, in a derby, in the last minute from the halfway line, I mean, it just doesn't get any better. And obviously the goal itself, it's done the rounds on Twitter and online, and deservedly so. It's an amazing goal. You know, there are just no words for it, really. It was just stupendous.
I actually met somebody. I took the dogs out for a walk this morning on the Barrows in Heysham, and I actually met somebody who hasn't actually seen it. But luckily I had it on my phone, so I showed him it. And he said, everybody's been talking about it, I haven't seen it. And I showed him on my phone, and I can't repeat what he said. Because he sort of went, yeah, you can imagine. James, I've seen some fantastic goals from Cole this season, but that is going to take some topping, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Joel said it all. The technique was excellent. The balls to try it. The point in the game, you know, goals like that have been scored before. Probably, arguably not as good because it was travelling when it hit the back of the net. There was no bounce, but not in the 94th minute in a derby. So yeah, it was spectacular. Somebody I know in Australia didn't realise it was a Morecambe goal because they just hadn't registered, and it had gone all the way over there in WhatsApp groups and via Twitter, and because it's a black kit and he just knows Morecambe is playing in red and never thought to check which team it was. He sent it me from Australia. So have you seen this amazing goal in England? I was like, yeah, that's Morecambe. So yeah, again, it's gone global, but fantastic, absolutely brilliant. I think the most important thing though is for all of that, it was a really good 3 points. It was a really good team performance. I agree with Joel. I think we were unfortunate not to win the game anyway. But if you're going to win a game, win a local derby. That's the way to do it. And
Greg, I will come back to the performance in a minute, but I just want to talk about the reaction of every single player and every single player on the bench, because you weren't hanging around for bets. You lot, there was you, Jockle, everybody running towards, and everybody said Cole had his sports bra on.
Yeah. When a goal goes in like that, you get the whole team going to celebrate. It's just unbelievable. I mean, even last minute goals in other games, you probably get in, I don't know, I've spoken to people who've had like 3 or 4 like that important, that magnificent in their career, but a goal like that, it doesn't normally happen. So yeah, everyone is out, Yoko straight down to the corner, and yeah, it's a GPS vest. That's what they wear. We wear GPS so you can see what we're back. But to be honest, I'm thinking a lot of us got some high records when we've seen that goal go in, because we've got some high speeds of everyone just sprinting into the corner. To go and celebrate with Cole and fans, man, it's class.
Yeah, and I must admit, I was in that away and right in front of Cole when he came to us, and I was hugging people I know, but I don't know, but I know who they were because I was stood next to him and chatting to him. But blooming, the place went absolutely mental. But go back to the performance. Yes, Fleetwood could feel hard done by, but I think from the point of view, we managed the game pretty well, didn't we? We let them have a lot of the ball, but once they got in the final third, they didn't really create much that day.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think that we controlled the game. It's mad because obviously since the game's done, you look at the possession stats and you think, right, they must have had the lion's share of the control in the game, the lion's share of the ball, meaning that they had more chances than we did. But I believe we managed the game well. You know, when we scored, we didn't go gung-ho like we perhaps have done in the past, and we kept just a lid on them completely all game. That's why conceding the goal was so unfortunate, because I did think it came against the run of play and against sort of what we've been doing in the first 80 minutes of the game. So when Cole did get that goal, it was one of them. It was like, you know, obviously it was amazing, but there's also the relief of like, we've done so well. It's nice to not draw a game and drop points when we didn't need to, because we dominated the game, I felt.
Yeah, I think you met a point very well there. The fact that we've suffered for last-minute goals in 2 or 3 games this season, Wycombe and Wimbledon for a start, where it's denied us a point, and it does become dispiriting. But I was stood with our matchday announcer, Mark, and he won't mind me name checking him, because we got that corner in the 93rd minute, and he turned around and went, "Come on, it's our turn for a bit of luck." And obviously their keeper pushed Cole's sort of cross-come shot away. They went up the other end and got the corner. And I was thinking, no, please don't. And then obviously the magic happened. But it took me about 15 minutes to get out of the ground because nobody was moving. It was just a fantastic atmosphere. And then obviously Cole went in and then came back out again. So everybody was like, you know. So yeah, it was a great way to earn 3 points. But looking at the season as a whole, that could just kickstart our season, Greg.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think that in the past, I don't know, I'm trying to think, like the last games we've had, just the amount of bad luck we've had has just been phenomenal. I've never really seen it. Like some of the goals we've conceded have been some of the best goals I've seen for a long time. You know, the goals against Cambridge and things like that. Preston back when. Thinking these goals it's just not goals you see that often. Out of Wimbledon, the final goal, I mean, turns on a sixpence and puts it in the top bins. You don't see it often. So to change our look that way and get a bit of luck ourselves, it's going to happen in the course of the season. You're going to get ups, you're going to get downs, but it's also nice because it's given us that push of like, you know what, we put in the performance this time and got the result, because the amount of times we put in a performance and not got the result can be a bit demoralising, but to get both is just massive.
So I'll move on to Tuesday night, and well-fancied Charlton, who haven't had the greatest start to the season. I thought, you know, with hindsight now, I thought they're like a bleeding good side to me. As somebody who's got Connor Washington up front and also Leigh pulling the strings, and they just look strong all over. And yet we managed to give them 2 goals, one in the first minute, which was unfortunate. A lot of people have blamed Yockel for that, but I don't think he was expecting anybody to, whether it was a cross or a shot. It's one of those things. Nobody makes mistakes, you know, deliberately. Ryan Delaney getting caught a bit there, and the long ball over the top. Connor Washington, again, good finish. He's an international player. But we from that moment on, we managed the game pretty well, Joel, and got back into it.
Yeah, I think obviously you don't want to give 2 goals away like that, like we did. But at the same time, I think we showed in that game something that we might not have shown throughout this season, is this kind of steely kind of fight back into the game. We were 2 goals down and in a bad position against a side who were back in form, and then just to kind of fight our way back into the game without. I thought we put in a solid performance. I don't think we set the world on fire, but we just kind of hung in there and kept them out and just dug our way back in. Cole gets the penalty, got a bit of hope, and then keep plugging away in the second half, and then we get that corner, get that chance, bit of quality from Alfie, you know, and O'Connor gets his head on the ball, and we're back in it. But then after that point, Charlton turned up the pressure again. I thought for those last kind of 20 minutes, they were pushing, but never really had much of a chance, to be honest. Like, there wasn't any moments where I thought, wow, they should have buried that. You know, we defended really, really well, and we were really organised, and it was really good to see us kind of be able to be in an unfortunate position, battle back from it, and then once we battle back, keep our nerve and keep them out. And that's something that was really, really good to see. And I think maybe it was taking a little bit of confidence in the Fleetwood game. Who knows? You know, it's just great to see that we were able to dig in a bit more and defend so well. Because I thought, you know, second half especially, we were really solid defensive performance, and they didn't have too much of a sniff despite having some really, really good attacking players.
I think it's a good point you make there, that we did show a lot of battling qualities. And I think, you know, it's probably no coincidence, and whether people agree with me or not, but the return of Shane McLaughlin's made a bit of a difference, James.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to have favourite players, especially not when I'm sitting in front of one of them. But the way that Shane plays, it resonates with me. You know, he covers every blade of grass. He's box to box. He can play in multiple positions. He works his socks off. I think, to be fair, Shane. I mean, you look at the stats and how we've done when we've had Shane in the team, and it is better. But the other thing that's really exciting is watching that midfield triangle. And those three lads working together in the last couple of games, it has given us real energy, and it's made us a much more difficult team to play through. Shane's done fantastically well, and I think he's getting stronger as the season goes on.
And I'll come to you, Greg. You had a fairly testing evening because you had somebody who's highly regarded up against you for 60 minutes, and then they take him off and they bring on Corey Blackett-Taylor, who's 10 yards quicker again.
Yeah, it was definitely an evening of being tested 1v1. But you know what, I enjoyed it. I wasn't something I was really expecting, if I'm honest, just because I'd done obviously a little bit, and I thought that's how they would play, but I obviously didn't realise they would try and get in the ball to him so much to come against me 1v1. But like I said, I relished the opportunity, and then obviously every fullback, when a substitution's going on, they think, okay, you know, will he come on my side? Will he come on the other side? And yeah, obviously when he came on my side, I had to grip my teeth and get on with it. Do you know what I mean?
It was quite noticeable though, because I haven't looked at the stats, and Joel will probably be in a better position to say, but just about every single one of their corners was you putting it out for a corner because somebody was taking you on, but nobody got past you.
No, yeah, like I said, the main thing for me was just stand up, make sure they don't get no crosses in. Corners, we'll deal with disappointing, but you'll deal with corners. So, you know, it happens, but it's probably the best thing that's happened at the outcome, really.
So what was the feeling in the dressing room? Were the people obviously disappointed with the 2 goals, but happy to come back into it and get a point?
Yeah, I think so. I think, for me personally, I know that like it's one of them where we've come back into games so much and then conceded again and lost the game. You know, games like, I don't know, Gillingham and games like that. I'm thinking like, you know, it's nice to get back into a game and not lose it from there. You know, even in Wycombe, Wimbledon, all these games, you know, you go goals down, you get back in. Preston, you go goals down, get back into the game, and then slip of concentration, you lose it. Oxford, I probably name more. So for me, it was a massive test of character because we did defend for a lot of the game. So to show that we could concentrate for the full 45 minutes, we were under the cosh, I felt. So to do that was massive. So in the dressing room, it's one of them where we want more possession. We ideally have more possession, but it was happy not to concede again and lose the game. So that was a big thing for us, I'd say.
And yet again, this is a general for everybody. Yet again, we came away with an encouraging performance, and the crowd again standing ovation at the final whistle. And that's been actually, other than the Cambridge game, that's been the way all season, hasn't it, James?
Yeah, I think the fans have been amazing. It's such an obvious thing to say. It sounds like a cliched throwaway comment, but it's not. I mean, the fans have been absolutely fantastic. Credit as well to Charlton bringing nearly 700 all the way up from London, which is impressive. But the atmosphere at the Zoom of the stadium has been like nothing I've ever known. I mean, you know, again, I go back 20 years and remember Christie Park, and everybody talked about how amazing the atmosphere was at Christie Park, and it was. But this season, the Zoom has been as good as I've ever known an atmosphere. That home stand is just unbelievable when it's just as packed as it's been for the vast majority of games. And the speed with which everybody's picking up the songs, it's really something else. I think as well, what's good is despite that tough run, despite those results not quite going our way, the fans are sticking with it, and they're really getting behind the team, and the away followings are holding up. So yeah, awesome, really, really awesome.
So moving on to our guest, we'll speak to Greg for a little bit about his career so far. Greg, born in Sale, as you said before, so a northern lad, and then City Academy, and you were well thought of there, and yet you sort of ended up leaving there and going to, you were Crewe on loan for virtually a season. Is that correct?
Yeah, for a whole season, yeah.
And at the end of that, you were still highly thought of at City, but you ended up leaving. So what happened there?
At these big clubs, when it comes to like under 23 football versus first team, there just comes a period of time where you're in between either the 23s or the first team. And for a lot of people, their contract can run through that period, and that's fine. What they'll do often with you is send you out on loan, bring you back, send you out on loan. But unless you are going to break into the first team, you'll see a lot of people just do that for an extended period of time and then leave. My contract was literally the moment I had finished up at Crew, I was just in between. I was too old to play for the 21s because they wanted a younger, or 23s as it is now. They want a younger sort of demographic in there. I wasn't breaking into the first team at City, so it was one of them where I just had to part ways, really.
And then obviously you had some time at Bradford City and then at Bury. The interesting one is the NEC Breeder one. How did that come about?
It was when I was leaving Bury. I'd been there for 2 years and they'd offered me a new deal, but I didn't want to stay. So it was sort of, if I stayed in the country, it was a conversation that was going to be had about compensation. And then luckily, so NAC had obviously they have a sort of a relationship with City, but it's not anything to do with finance. It's more like they take their loan players, but they also have a situation where they have a system whereby they have almost like when where they're looking for people like targets, they're scouting. They use a system. City use a system which basically targets different things that clubs are looking for. And NAC were basically looking for a certain specific type of fullback. They were looking for someone with an academy background and someone who's played a lot of games and had quite a lot of experience. So I fit a lot of those categories. So that's actually how that came about. It was through the City link, but not in the way of like, oh, this is one of our players. It was more to do with, oh, this is our system. Would you like to use this? And then I came up on the database, and that's how that came about, really.
So another Moneyball incident. That seems to be happening quite a lot, doesn't it, Joel?
No, yeah, definitely. It's just a big part of the game these days, I suppose, with stats. But I suppose kind of moving out to the Netherlands, kind of culturally, what was that like? Kind of adjusting to a different country.
It was interesting. It was definitely interesting at first, but obviously I think that Holland is one that's easier than others because it's such English speaking. So there wasn't really the transition of like, oh, no one speaks a language, I'm going to have to do this and that. They were quite accommodating as well with regards to where to live, but definitely a different cultural attitude with regards to the people and the football. So it was interesting, but it took some of the transition there.
Was it actually a more technical game over there, not quite as gung ho?
Yeah, definitely. They play a lot of football, a lot of ball on the floor, and there's an argument to say that they prefer the football over winning the actual football game. There's definitely, when I've seen some of the games, I think they just love to play football. You can see the goal from playing out. It's like, nah, we'll still play out. We love it. It's definitely a different attitude. It's more like we love football, total football, as opposed to winning. And I say the English and the Scottish game is like just win at all costs. If it has, we have to sit in for however long we have to do it. But yeah, it was definitely more technical, which is interesting because I thought if it was going to be more technical, they would have players who would be able to do it like far better in England. But I'd say decision making is probably something that was a lot better in England and in Scotland as opposed to Holland, but definitely more technical. Yeah.
I would imagine you'd be quite a catch as a left-sided left back or a left-sided attacking fullback, because the simple fact is you've got a lot of energy and you're brilliant in the air and you're lightning quick, and that's surely going to suit total football, isn't it?
It did, to be fair. I mean, my time over there was kind of stunted and cut short just from the experience of things that I can't control. Whether the manager was a fan of mine, the team I was in, definitely affected my time. The fans were good with me though, man. I'll always shout out NAC because NAC, the fans were always so nice and really, really took to me really well. And I thought that I actually played quite well when I did play, but that my style wasn't what the manager liked, and that often causes problems and poses problems for both the player, because you can't really get any teams if the manager don't pick you. So that was kind of summed up my time there.
So yeah, wait, I'm reading between the lines here. You were probably too dynamic.
At times it depends. My style of play, like I said, it was total football, whereas I'm probably a bit more direct when I was there. So they preferred that style, yeah. And
then you had a what looks like a decent move to Aberdeen in the Scottish Premier League, but hampered a bit by injuries there, unfortunately.
Yeah. It was a good move. Like it was, it worked out well. Especially just through a personal situation, like it was quite a tough time. So to end up with that move for the loan and with a view to a permanent was perfect for me. Played the first 18 games and then obviously picked up one injury that snowballed into more, which was just frustrating. Obviously, COVID hit at the same time, so just a lot of bad luck in the last 2 years. I can't lie.
Well, the only thing that's good come out of the Aberdeen move was that a certain Stephen Robinson, as Motherwell manager, caught sight of you and thought he looks all right. And obviously, here we are, sort of like at the end of COVID, and happily, you've managed to stay most of the season fit. And I would imagine now you're in a happier place football-wise, hopefully.
Yeah, definitely. You know, it was a major thing for me to stay fit and to show that like my injuries were just something that, you know, was just unlucky, so to speak. So yeah, obviously, and I actually I had contact with the gaffer before Aberdeen actually, just before I went to Holland, because basically it was to do with obviously crossing borders, whether you paid a compensation. So I got in touch with him then, but then ended up going to Holland. So to have the opportunity again to come play football in my home city, like obviously not from Morecambe, but I'm just down the road. So to be so close and play the kind of football that I think suits me is it's been massive.
So, two things from me, and then I'll hand you over to our resident proper questioner. But you as a person, I remember your debut when you played at Blackburn, and I was thinking, and you've got a spring-heeled leap, and Blackburn did that sort of like left centre half over to the right wing back. And I don't think he won a header all night. And everybody was like, who's he? Who's he? Have you always been that good in the air? Have you been a centre half or something like that?
I centre half when I was little. But yeah, I don't know. I think I played a lot of head tennis when I was younger. And I was like, I loved head tennis. So then I just practiced heading. And then I just got all right at it. And that's basically how it started. No banter.
But now you seem to be one of the go-to people to sort of be sort of like somewhere around the centre of the goal when one defending a corner now, because everybody's seen how good you are at heading.
Yeah, well, they just leave me to it, which I quite like. They just sort of say, you know what, girl, you will mark and you just go and head the ball. So I think it's worked quite well, to be honest. I think we started it at Crew, and it just works quite well. They just leave me free, and then I just go and attack the balls.
Don't say that. People will be listening.
Yeah, yeah, true. Yeah,
delete that bit out.
Yeah. Sorry, some editing needed there. And finally, before I hand you over to Joel, which I'm sure he'll ask you something similar anyway, but you must have been absolutely chuffed to bits to get on for the second cap again for Jamaica against the USA, and that must have been a brilliant milestone for you to get on. And after the injuries that you've had, it must have been brilliant to get back out there, and the quality of the team that Jamaica have got. It's you're in pretty esteemed company, aren't you?
No, of course. Like, it was interesting actually, because I think it was 2 years ago I was in Jamaica, and then a year ago I went away with them, and I always thought, oh, like, because we were sort of the first wave when we went. It was like me, Val Morrison, Hector had been going for years, Bobby Reed had been going for years, but Daniel Johnson from Preston went, and I remember thinking, oh, like, we're the first of a new wave of English players to go. So I thought, oh, you know, this will be my chance. Then I got injured, so I thought, oh, that's my chance sort of gone. They started picking up, you know, flipping Antonios and, you know, Grays, you know what I mean? Kamar Roofs, Blair Turgott, people who'd been in Liam Moore, people who'd played in Championship. So for someone who's been playing Scotland or League One, I didn't think I'd have that chance again. So when it came round again, I was obviously very excited, had to turn it down, I think 3 times because of injury. So I think for me, I was like, that's my chance gone, especially because people have probably stepped into my place and done well. So it was, massive for me to get the call up just to go. So obviously, to even get some time on the pitch was huge again. You know, it was just, you know, like when you're injured and stuff, it just makes all that stuff like worthwhile, you know.
I have to say, Greg, I was in the States when you were in the States, and I got back and managed to sit down on the sofa and watch the game, and to see you start, that's seriously impressive, you know, because you weren't getting a private jet back, were you?
No, almost. I was so close to getting on that jet. You know? So West Ham fan listening, I'm very sad and I'm very angry.
It's funny because we had Dermot on last week, and he live on this last week, which went out last Friday. He said, "Well, we don't expect him back till Friday, so I can't see him starting." And you did.
No, yeah, that was unexpected, to be honest. But it was all right. I didn't feel as bad as I thought, but it was all right. Yeah, it was okay.
So Joel, I'll come hand over to you now. I hope I haven't taken all your questions. I bet you I haven't.
You've taken a few, but you know, it's all right. So obviously, like we were saying, it was quite. I think Charlton definitely, they chucked on the pacey, skillful players with Giacchini and Blackett Taylor down that right flank, our left flank. But kind of facing them, what's that like after having been a week in training with the likes of Mikel Antonio, Leon Bailey, Ravel Morrison, Kemal Roof?
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Obviously, they're fantastic players. But when you're on international, a lot of the training is based towards the games. So we didn't really go at each other in the same way because obviously you're not trying to injure no one. Everyone just wants to be fit for the games, get through the games, that kind of thing. So it was probably more of a test just because the guys who came on obviously at the weekend really wanted to go past me and try and put balls in. But at the same time, when I did come back, it did give you that confidence of like, well, I've gone and done that. Hopefully I should be fine holding up in games like this. But it's just one of them. The practice makes perfect, and the more you practice, the more confident you feel. Do you know what I mean?
No, yeah, I suppose like you say, when even though you're not straight up competing against them in a competitive match, just being in training with some of those names and the quality of player, that must be a hell of a boost to your confidence.
Yeah, I'd say so. I definitely felt more confident when I got back because like that's the thing is obviously when you go, that's exciting. It gives you more confidence, but you want to go and do a good job. So to go and I felt I did like an all right job gives you that boost of like, okay, so I've done it at that level now, and you know what I mean, and that's just an extra string to your bow. So then you come back, and yeah, it does give you that little boost, I must say.
That's great. I think moving on from that, talking of kind of playing your way back into form and getting boosts, obviously you've been coming back from a lot of injury troubles, and I think watching you, especially over the first few weeks, I felt like I was watching you just test the water physically and get yourself back to that point where you kind of could run in the way that you wanted to. So like, how hard is it to get your kind of physical and athletic kind of levels back to where you want them when you've been out for such a long time injured?
Takes time. I think it takes time depending on how long you've been out for. I know that when I was out for like I was out for a long time. It must have been 10 months, I think. But like coming back from that was like building from scratch. And I know that when I got back with this hamstring injury, it was back building from scratch. It was like 4 months nearly. So it was like, right, take it day by day, build up. And then it was like, right, I've got through this. So then once you test, it's like, right, I've got through this game, or I've got through this half. That was pre-season, was like half game, 60 minutes. So then Blackburn for me was like, right, I got through the whole game. And then it was a case of like Saturday, Tuesday, which for me was like, I've not done for so long. So it's like, right, don't if you want to just try hit every milestone. So yeah, it was definitely more of a test of like, right, will my body hold up? Because you have that lack of thing in your back of your mind, like, can my body do this anymore? So the fact that I've managed to get through and do that was always in the back of my mind, but now I'm feeling more and more confident with it. You know what I mean? It's been so many tests, so.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose coming back from those games, are there ever points in games when you kind of think, oh, tell you what, I do just need to hold back a little bit here, or does that not really come across your head as much?
No, not as much as I thought, because the thing is, once you're in the game, you're just in the game. I think there's only a period in like the early pre-season when I perhaps wasn't timing my weight sessions and my running sessions right, and I was like, oh, maybe I've done too much. But other than that, it's actually been all right. It was like coming back from the flight was a bit like, right, I have to make sure I warm up really well, because otherwise things could go south. But other than that, it was all right. It was good.
So kind of moving on to coming to the club in the first place, was it quite an easy decision when Stephen gave you a call, or were there a few other offers on the table?
It was definitely, it was, I wouldn't say it was an easy decision, because obviously like coming off the back of my situation of being injured and in this window of sort of COVID window that I'm pretty sure everyone would agree was very, very tough for the players really. You're always thinking, right, I want to make the right decision. I don't really want to be picking a club and battling at the bottom of the league, but also I want to pick a manager who believes in me and knows my qualities and can design a team around the football they want to play. I think that's always important, because I've been in the past where managers have brought in players and then gone, right, what kind of football are we going to play? And then not really made a decision on that. Whereas I felt that speaking to the gaffer, he was very much like, this is how I want to play. This is why you would suit it. And that for me was a real, this is a man with a plan. So that was instrumental for me, to be fair. I was like, it's definitely refreshing to hear, because when you're a player who thinks about that sort of thing as well, it was nice to hear, and it kind of made up my decision for me.
That's interesting to hear, and it sounds like you've got quite a good grasp and what you got quite a good clear idea of what you see yourself as a player and what your qualities are.
I'd say so. You know, I think that it's interesting as well because everyone has different opinions on what you are like. You know what I mean? As a player, I remember like just some managers being like, "Oh, yeah, you're good at this, you're not good at this," and you're hearing it thinking, "This is not what I think." But you know, we'll carry on. Yeah, it was definitely nice to hear that he believes that my attributes that I believe I'm good at. You know, we're on the same page. And then he obviously said, "Oh, I feel like I can develop you in this area." So that's also nice to hear because I'm someone who wants to push and be better. So yeah, I feel like I'm quite in touch with how I believe my attributes that I'm good at and not so good at and things I need to work on. And that's how I like to go forward. Someone else who has the same honest approach is just someone I like to work with.
That's very interesting, that. Well, just one final one, bit of a silly one. I've got to ask this. And Cole beat the ball up the half. I think Ant clears it to the halfway line. Cole takes it down his chest, turns against Fleetwood. What are you thinking? Are you thinking, hold it up, Cole, just wear the clock down? Are you thinking, go on, Cole, have a crack?
I'm 100% thinking have a crack. Like, I didn't want to draw that game because I just was fuming. I was like, how are they even won in this game? And two, he's already done it at Wimbledon. So I'm thinking, just let the man shoot. Also, as Aaron Wildig says, he's like, the man is just, I don't know what happened, whether he drunk some holy water or something. Man, everything touches. So he's got the Midas touch at the moment. You know what I mean? Even against like Lincoln, he's just shooting from anywhere, just going in. So yeah, let the man shoot. That's what I say. So yeah, I was very much like. And then I was right behind it as well. So I'm like, oh, is it gonna? No. And then it went in. And I was thinking, this is mad. Yeah, sick day.
Well, to be fair, when that one sat up against Charlton as well, I think Phillips had just kind of looped up in the air and he hit it on the spin on the volley, and it didn't quite go in, but it wasn't far away. And I thought, just go for it, Cole. Just keep doing it.
What he wants. Give him a crown.
Yeah, exactly. Right, we'll come to James now. I'd like to talk a bit. Obviously, we've drawn Buxton in the FA Cup. We know now we've got 400 tickets. And I think the club have handled the ballot situation quite well there, because obviously 2,600 season ticket holders does not go into 400 tickets, does it, James?
No, it does. It doesn't. It's funny. Joel and I were both on the Trust call, the Trust Club liaison call last night, and Ben's there, and Ben in his very sort of dry Yorkshire way delivered some useful information on it. Because I called Ben when we drew Buxton and said, "You're going to find that this is oversubscribed." He was like, "No, it'll be fine." And it turns out that he was right, because we actually yesterday, with not quite 24 hours left to go, we hadn't actually got 400 ballots. We were close to it. But you know, everybody who was wanted to apply for a ticket, as of last night, was able to apply for one, which is great. We might get some more tickets. There's a small chance of that. But no, I think we've learned the hard lessons from trying to sort out Tranmere and then trying to sort out the playoff final. This was more challenging. We just got a bit more organised in the back and in the background now. We've got more staff, more professional people sort of thinking about ways to do things, more capacity, better systems. So it's just a bit easier to do, all carefully coordinated by people like Ben and Anya and Martin, who it's several heads where before we had one.
And so moving on, the positive thing is obviously, like you said, hopefully everybody who wants a ticket will get a ticket. I think from my point of view, I think it's been helped by the fact that we've got Sunderland away on the Tuesday after, which is obviously an attractive fixture for lots of people. So they're going to be saying, well, actually, if I don't get a Buxton ticket, I'll probably go to the Stadium of Light and see us win 2-0. You heard it here first, Greg. But from that point of view, I think that's helped us, hasn't it, a little bit? But then again, the club have been proactive in opening the local choice suite. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, again, it's something that people have asked us to do in the past, and maybe capacity or just short notice has not been as possible or as easy as we'd like. But it's just a good idea. We're not restricted anymore. We can fit 200 plus people in there. We won't put out the full details of that until we've completed the ballot, because we don't want people sort of thinking, well, I'll book for that just in case I don't get that. But they'll follow each other in quick succession, and there should be a really good atmosphere there. Again, it's the next best thing, and it's a great time to be watching a game. So yeah, that'll be a good lunchtime in the local choice suite.
And what have you got any fears on the plastic pitch at Buxton, Greg?
Nah, man. I mean, I know a lot of players do, because obviously it's quite hard and it can be quite physically draining, demanding. But I quite like a hard pitch because I'm quite heavy-footed and like to stamp down and jump up, so I don't mind it. I wouldn't want to do it all the time, though. Scotland was just scarred me, to be fair. So once, like in a blue moon, I don't mind. And it's not. It's also, you know, when you are playing at this time of the year, you can come across some bad pitches. So the fact that it's going to be hopefully a flat surface, take it out to play some football on.
It's funny because that, as I always part of it, this sort of stand behind me was the old ground, and that was knocked down in 1985. So we were playing Buxton in the Northern Premier League, obviously well before you and Joel were born. And Buxton's is always an absolutely beautiful pitch. I've been there a few times and watched us, and it was seriously, because it's the highest ground in England. It's over 1,000 feet above sea level, and it was beautiful pitch. And I was surprised when they changed to plastic, but I can see that because they get community involvement. But so from that point of view, it's a potential banana skin, Greg. But I know Dermot was saying last week that following the MK Dons game, he'll do a bit of concentrating on, and maybe do a bit more on the 4G at the uni, I think.
Yeah, we've got an Astro pitch that's close to us that we can train on, so it'll be good to prep for the game, preparing for the conditions as well that we're going to play on. It's not quite Man City where they've got the chambers of like heat when they're going to play in a hot country and cold when they're playing in Russia or whatever, but it's our own little version and we're happy with it.
So I'll come back to you now, James. Anything else you want to tell us from the boardroom? Anything happening? Obviously, you had the trust call last night. Anything? I noticed when I went behind the barter card stand that that some of the metalwork is in for the cover.
Yeah, again, that's taking shape, and it's now taking shape, and there's much more confidence. It's going to be ready. There'll be something hopefully more visible by the time we get to the next Fleetwood game in December. And once we start getting the roof up, then it really happens quite quickly. So the thinking now is moving on to making sure that space is actually what people want it to be, and the guys are working out how to take feedback on that and exactly how to sort of lay it out and everything. But no, that's really taking shape. Aside from that, I mean, we can't sort of announce a new piece of news or a new hire or whatever sort of every single month. And I know Charlie always tries to come on with exclusives. There's not really any exclusives at the moment, aside from to say that it's all going broadly to plan, which is really fantastic. Again, I can't believe how many things have kind of fallen into place, and how quickly things have been able to fall into place. So just cross our fingers and keep working and hope that continues to happen.
I always ask Charlie, because Charlie's obviously our go-to guy when he comes on. But I always ask Charlie, and it's not going to plan according to him because he's still not got mushy peas, he's got processed.
The funny thing is with me and Charlie, we've spent our whole lives growing up together, going out together, going to primary school together and everything else. I've always been the joker of me and Charlie. In the last 2 years, since we've both been working with Morecambe, working for Morecambe, we've completely turned around. So he's now the one that talks about mushy peas every 5 seconds and does dog photographs on Twitter, and I'm like the one that's seen as like Mr. Serious in the background. It's literally we've spun on our head. It's quite nice though to see, and yeah, he does like his mushy peas. I introduced you as the professional podcaster because you're on that many podcasts, and I'm like, you were supposed to go last week, and you were, I can't. He's doing something else. And that just before I move on, and we move on to the MK Dons game and the Buxton game, I just want to say, on my screen, you two are below me. And when you went, I was in America the same time as you. I wanted to drop a clang with a place drop then. Because me and Joel were like, well, I've just been in Morecambe. So I was working hard. I was working really hard.
I do.
So was Greg. Was Greg. Yeah.
Always.
So MK Dons. That's going to be an interesting game. They hit the buffers midweek, but they've been in pretty good form. And from last season, we're familiar with a couple of their faces, Joel. Scott Twine, who was on loan at Newport from Swindon, who was instrumental in our defeat at Rodney Parade last year. And also Max Waters, who Cardiff paid $1 million for Crawley. He came on, scored a hat-trick in about 15 minutes when he came on for Crawley against us. So we don't want them too far on all cylinders, do we, Joel?
No, hopefully not. And they've both had a good bit of a run of form of late as well. But yeah, that Max, I think that was his first I think it was 0-0 at half time, wasn't it, against Crawley?
It was.
And it had been pretty even. And then Watters just came on. It was his first 45 minutes for the club, and he just he just took us to pieces. It was quite spectacular, really. But yeah, no, they're both brilliant players. They've got quite a few brilliant players. I know that Liam O'Reilly's playing really well at the minute. So, you know, they're a good side. They're up in the playoffs at the minute. I think they're probably going to be there for the rest of the season. It'll be a big test at the same time. I think we've probably done better against the prettier footballing sides rather than the more kind of rough and ready sides like your Gillians and your Wickhams who you know, not maybe done as well as we have done in comparison to these kind of the fancier sides. So, you know, there's still stuff, you know, there's definitely hope there. We've definitely got it in us to pull off a good result. It'll be interesting to see how they react to the defeat on Tuesday night. You know, are they going to bounce back all angry because they conceded in the last minute, or they're going to deflate? Who knows? But, you know, I'm sure, you know, Greg and the rest of the guys, you know, they'll be putting in a good shift and hopefully we can get a result.
I'm not normally a one for stats, and I haven't checked this, so I could be completely wrong. But I know I've been to their ground, and I know they've been to ours, and I don't think we've beaten them yet, James.
No, I don't think we have. I tell you what, as well, they've got. I mean, for Greg and for the team, you're going to have to look in so many different directions because their goals and their assists come from everywhere. And it's not like with one or two players who are scoring the goals, or you know, one or two players giving the assists. It's spread all over the place. But that said, you know, as you guys have said, there's absolutely nothing to stop us going into games like this and expecting to win and playing to win. You know, it's definitely not a harder game than Charlton for me in terms of the form of the team. And Charlton the other night for half an hour they looked excellent, like really, really good. Probably for me as good as Rotherham looked.
Rotherham, I would agree. Yeah.
But you know, if when you can come back against a team that's playing football as well as that and looking as comfortable as that and get a good result, nothing to fear.
And Greg, you've got to be looking forward to games like this, haven't you? Good, testing yourself against the better teams.
Yeah, I'd say so. You know, I think that Joel's right. I think that the team's done well against the teams that play more football, have the ball on the floor. You know, end of the day, we're trying to press teams. So pressing teams that play football and want to make passes and take chances in and around their own half, it just kind of suits us. You know, when the ball's put in the air, it's not that we struggle with it. It's just more not really our game, but pressing and high energy, that sort of thing, especially with the midfield we've got now, is probably going to suit us. And yeah, you know, you want to play against the teams that are going to be at the top, but at the same time, you've got teams who are scrapping it out at the bottom, but the teams at the top, they underestimate us. You know, that showed when we played teams like Sheffield Wednesday, Preston. You know, teams come and think, oh, these won't play football. It's just Little Morecambe. But obviously, the way that we're set up, it's not Little Morecambe. It's teams that want to come. We want to play football as well as take the ball off you and put it in the back of your net and keep them out. You know, I mean, yeah. James is saying there that Charlton. I thought Charlton looked excellent. I think for me, Charlton was a lot of individual brilliance. You know, in the players, but the team looked really good. They're obviously coming off a good run of form, and we kept them out for the most part. I mean, the goals are 2 individual errors, and they're not like cutting us open. So that definitely gives us confidence going into the MK Dons game.
And just to pick up on something that you said earlier, obviously you were saying you wanted to sign for a team that was not going to be down the bottom of the league, and yet we're sort of quite near the bottom. But I don't know why. Whether I'm completely overconfident, but I think when we get everybody fit, we will get out of this. Yeah, you must believe the same, surely.
100%. I think that, like, obviously the league is the league. It will always reflect roughly around what obviously the teams are doing, but it definitely is a mindset of, you know, like when you're down there, I've been down there with a couple of teams, and it's a defeated mindset of like, we're struggling here, you know, every team that comes is better than us and we've got to do our best to try and beat them. And that's just not the attitude I believe that we have. You know, when Charlton came, you know, we're playing against Fleet, we're playing against other teams, we're going like, you know, I mean, I look at the games now, it's frustrating at times because I'm looking at like the Cheltenhams, Cambridges, and thinking, you know, we are the better side. We can be the better side, and that's the belief that we have. That's why I'm not worried personally. Obviously, that we'll be stuck down the bottom. And when I talk about signing for a bottom end, it's more the attitude of like, you know what, we are good enough to be in, you know, mid to top end of the table. So yeah, we just need to get a bit more luck and a bit more goals and keep out the goals like we've been doing in the last 2 games. And the position in the league should reflect that.
Amen to that. We'll finish off, Joel. I know we've got the Shrimps Trust Christmas toy collection. Is that this Saturday?
Yeah, that'll be this Saturday, and we'll have a few people down in person to collect stuff from that. So yeah, if any donations would be really massively welcomed.
And nothing else from the trust?
Not off the top of my head, no. I always forget that. I've definitely forgotten something, but that's just how it is.
Doesn't matter. Listen, as per usual, thanks to our guests. Greg, brilliant to have you on. Lovely to finally get you on at last. I know that Charlie's been trying to get you on for quite a few weeks, but being a Jamaican international and disappearing off to study your climbs, you've been busy. And and James, we wanted you on for a couple of weeks as well, but you've been in America. So he's been in hospital. I haven't been anywhere. This has been the Shrimps Trust podcast. Thank you very much for listening. Do join us again next week when hopefully we'll have something positive to say about the MK Dons game. We'll have some fantastic guests on, and we'll look forward to Buxton on the plastic in the FA Cup. Thanks for listening. Hope you've enjoyed it. Tune in next week.